A simple tutorial or illustration on how to achieve this conical blouse with a trumpet sleeve. So to start, here is my pattern paper, and I've gone ahead to mark out the basic measurement for my blouse. So I marked the shoulder to bust, under bust, waistline, and for the blouse length I'm adding 7 inches to the blouse length. You can use either 6 to 7 inches, right? Then I'll mark my shoulder divided by 2 plus half and come down by 1 inch. Here I'll go ahead to mark a neckline of 2.5 inches, and I'll go ahead to connect. Now you notice the neckline is a bit small, that's why I'm using 2.5. If you feel the 2.5 is small, use 2.75 inches. Now I'll find the chest line, which is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches, and I'll draw out a straight line at that point. Whatever you have on the shoulder, mark it back on the chest line, place your ruler, draw a straight line. Now I'm going to come down by 2.5 inches for the depth of my neckline. You notice the depth of the neckline is high. If you feel this is a bit low, you can use 2 inches, that is 2.5 by 2 inches for the neckline. Now divide your armhole into 2 equal parts and come out by 1/2 inch at this point. At the chest line, mark your bust circumference divided by 4. Now after marking this, go ahead to place my curved rule. I'll connect from this point all the way up and then connect to the armhole of the dress. So after I'm done marking at this point, the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead to mark my dart for this dress. So to mark your dart, you need your nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches. I'll go ahead to divide it by 2 and mark, giving me 3.5 inches, which I'll take all the way to the lower part of this pattern. Also mark it at the bust point. Now I'm going to place my ruler and I'll connect from the waist to the under bust to the bust and to the blouse length. Now I'll mark 1/2 inch on both sides for my dart because this is a basic dart, and come down by 1 inch. I'll place my ruler, connect this all the way up, and also connect at the other side. After connecting here, I'll take my dart down. I'll mark about 5 inches down for the dart length. Now let's insert my body measurement. I'll mark the bust circumference divided by 4 and add just 1 inch for sewing allowance. Mark the under bust circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace and add my sewing allowance. Here I'll mark the waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace and add my sewing allowance. Right now I'll come down to the hip point. I'll mark the hip circumference divided by 4 and add just 1 inch for the sewing allowance. Then I'll connect my pattern. So for the upper part of this pattern, from the bust to the waist, you can add as much as sewing allowance you want, but from the waist down to the blouse length, please use just 1/2 or 1 inch for your sewing allowance. Because of the conical effect you have there, your dress is not meant to be bulky. So to give this dress a conical effect, I'm adding extra 2 inches to the hip so that it will give it that standing effect by the side of the pattern. So this 2 inches is not a standard. To have a conical effect, you can either add 1 to 3 inches to your hip. So I'm using these 2 inches. It is not too much, it is just moderate. Right now, if you feel 2 inches is too big, you can reduce it to 1.5 or 1 inch. Let's work on the neckline of this dress. I'll come in by 0.3 inches and I'll take that down. So I'll measure about 3 inches for the depth of the neckline. So I came in by 0.3 so that the space when you sew it won't be too wide at the center. Step is to mark your bust dart. To get your bust dart is the difference between your shoulder to waist in front and your shoulder to waist at the back. Mine is 1.5. Now my shoulder to waist in front is 17, while my shoulder to waist at the back is 15.5. If you minus 15.5 from 17, you will have 1.5 inches. So this is how I got the 1.5 inches for the bust dart. So I'll go ahead to cut out my pattern. Cutting out the part that has the bust dart, make sure you blend it out. So after cutting this, I'll cut out the waistline. You can add more allowance to the upper part of your pattern, but at the lower part, leave it to just 1/2 or 1 inch for stitching up allowance. So I'll use this part to cut the back pattern. All you have to do is add your zipper allowance of 1.5 to 2 inches for the lower part of the pattern. We'll draft the upper part of the back because we need the measurement of the neckline. So at the front of your pattern for the back, what you have to do is to add extra 1.5 to 2 inches for your zipper allowance. So now you'll be using this to cut out the back, just like I said. The lower part, you just add like a zipper allowance, just like we have at the upper part of this back. Now for the neckline, I'll still use that same 2.5 inches, and I'll come down by 1 inch. Now if you feel this 2.5 is too small, you can use 2.75, but do not use 3 inches, and I'll go ahead to connect. Next step is the shoulder. So I got the shoulder the same way I got the shoulder for the front, and I marked the chest line. Remember, the shoulder to waist at the front is longer than that of your back pattern. Measure your shoulder to waist in front and measure your shoulder to waist at the back. The next step is to mark your dart. To mark your dart, divide your nipple to nipple by 2 and mark. Mine is 3.5. I marked a straight line there. Now the next step I'll take is to mark 1/2 inch on both sides of the waistline of this dress. After marking this, I'm going to come down by 1 inch from my bust, because this is a basic dart, and I'll connect this all the way to the lower part of the pattern. I'm going to mark the bust circumference divided by 4 here, then add your sewing allowance, the sewing allowance of your choice, then mark your waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace, and also add your sewing allowance to it. Now I'll go ahead to place my ruler to connect. Now after connecting this, the last thing we're going to do for this back pattern is to take out the zipper bulge, and also go ahead to take the measurement of the neckline of your pattern. So after taking this measurement, the next step you're going to take is also take the measurement for the front. For the back pattern, I have a total of 4.2 inches, and for the front I have 4 inches, right? So I'll go ahead to cut out my pattern. After cutting this out, we are now going to cut out the collar of the dress and then the sleeve of this dress. So if you have any questions so far, please go ahead to ask your question. So I'll just go ahead to cut this now, and we are going to take out the zipper bulge of this dress at the back. So mark 1/2 inch here, and you're going to go ahead to extend this all the way up. Now if you don't want this to reduce your allowance, you can go ahead to replace this by the side of your waistline when you're transferring your pattern to the fabric. Let's go ahead to cut out the collar of this dress. For the collar, you're going to join the front and the back measurement together, which will give you 8.2 inches. You know you're cutting 2 separate collars, and you're going to mark the height. I'm using 2 inches. Now place your tape, divide what you have into 2, mark the midpoint, and come up by 1/2 inch here. From here, I'm going to connect this all the way to the midpoint of this collar. So I'm using 2 inches for the height. Now if you use 2 inches and you're not okay with what you have, you can increase the height. I'll go ahead to connect. So I'll mark here F meaning front and B meaning back of the collar. The F part will be at the front, while the B will be at the back of the collar. You're going to cut out 2 of these for each side of your neckline. Then you're going to bring out your pattern, then go ahead to join it to it.